Hi everyone, I'm Maria McLachlan and this is the second video in my series about bad arguments made by trans activists. And in this one, I'm going to talk about all the different kinds of women there are according to those who promote transgender ideology. To start with, I did a bit of research to see how this phrase, kinds of women, is used on social media. Not by trans activists, but by humans. Let's have a look. All kinds of women get raped regardless of their looks. It's pretty clear what this commenter means by that. There are only two kinds of women, beautiful and very beautiful. Oh, Salma, pass me a bucket. Money attracts all kinds of women. Money makes you handsome. Don't bet on it, mate. The point I'm trying to make here, and I know it's an obvious one, is that the phrase kinds of is used colloquially. It's not a scientific way of categorizing people or other animals. It's not used in taxonomic classification. We might use it conversationally to refer to a certain breed of animal, as in what kind of horse is that? A Clydesdale, an Arabian, whatever. When we use it in everyday conversation, we tend to use it to refer to personal traits, as in what kind of person publicly abuses a famous woman for saying that sex is real. I'll leave you to fill in the blank on that one. As you may know, I'm not the kind of woman who suffers fools gladly, and I'm not the kind who forgives and forgets easily. So let's have a look at what other kinds of women there are. Oh yes, there are tall women, black women, straight women, lesbian women, and trans women. What? I see this list, or similar random nonsensical attempts to categorize women, all the time on social media as an attempt to justify the inclusion of trans-identifying men as women. I haven't even put it on my bad arguments page because it's so daft, though I probably will do very soon. And the silliest argument that is made by trans activists goes like this. Trans women are women. The clue is in the name. Well, change the bloody name, it's misleading. Who do you think coined the term trans women in the first place? It wasn't a biologist. By the way, eaten any hot dogs lately? The clue is in the name. Poor doggies. Going back to this list, oh, it's a different but similar list. Seems they're trying to be a bit sneaky here. It's a sort of verbal sleight of hand, lulling us gently into thinking about all the different kinds of women there are before leading us into a massive category error and expecting us not to notice. I mean, seriously, do they think we are stupid? Tall women, that's not a kind of woman. That's just a woman who's tall. Any woman can be tall. Well, except a short woman, obviously. This is like saying big horses, black horses, old horses, pantomime horses. The clue is in the name. Just ridiculous. Now, black women. Black women are the reason I wanted to make this video. It is appalling and sad that one of the worst possible arguments made by cerebrally challenged trans activists is derived from this idea that there are kinds of women. But this particular one, and I do have it on my bad arguments page, by the way, this particular argument only uses black women as a comparator group. They don't even bother with the tall women and the straight women, etc. Here is someone saying, there is no difference between women and trans women for the same reason there's no difference between women and black women. I was mortified when I first saw that. I bet he wouldn't think of saying there's no difference between women and white women. He clearly thinks that white is the norm and that black women are a variation or subset. As for this, black women are not biologically the same as other women. They are still women. It just means that the differences for being black have to be considered as well. I am arguing that the biological differences for being trans doesn't necessarily stop them from being women. I'm not even sure what he means here. And it is a he, of course. What does he think are the biological differences between black women and other women, as he puts it? Is he talking about skin tone and hair texture? These are adaptive traits. Different environmental conditions affect phenotype, but skin tones aren't equal to reproductive systems. A difference in hair texture is not equivalent to the difference between having a penis and having a vagina, and nor for that matter is a difference in height. Black women are female and trans so-called women are male, and that does stop you from being a woman because a woman is an adult human female. That is the only kind of woman there is. Now, as I said before, we use kinds of colloquially to refer to personal traits, and we can use it to compare ourselves to gender stereotypes. I might, for example, say, I'm not the kind of woman who likes to be in the kitchen baking cakes when I could be outside playing football. Imagine I'm 30 years younger. In my youth, that would have been quite remarkable. Not so remarkable these days in an era of women's professional football. That didn't exist when I was young. If I were to say it the other way round, oh, don't like football, would rather be baking cakes, nobody would find that particularly surprising, except my husband, because baking cakes is a traditional womanly pastime. Now, if I had a young grandson in today's climate who said he'd rather bake cakes or play with dolls than play football, chances are that some people would think, could be trans. Gender ideology is regressive. It depends on rigid, backward stereotypes. And it's because of arguments like these that there are kinds of women, or that woman is an umbrella term for crying out loud, that I no longer use the term trans woman unless I'm quoting someone else. I used to be happy to use it because I thought it meant a man who presents as feminine, who perhaps wishes that he'd been born a woman, not that he was claiming to actually be a woman. And certainly a few of the trans people that I'm friendly with do use it like that. None of them claim to actually be women, and of course I wouldn't be friendly with them if they did. But trans cultists have appropriated the word woman, and by sticking the abominable term cis in front of it, they have reduced us, adult human females, to a category of what we are. And if there is one thing that the current tsunami over J.K. Rowling is showing us, it is how normalised the belief that men can actually be women has become. We are being erased as a sex class, and we need to fight back. Right, here's one from Tom Gabion, who's becoming quite notorious on Twitter for being an idiot. If a white woman doesn't consent to a black woman seeing her naked, does she have the right to try and exclude black women from changing rooms? And here's a similar one from some other idiot. This is posed as a question, although he hasn't punctuated it. White women should be forced to share with black women, despite that also making some of them irrationally uncomfortable. So repeatedly, we see black women being spoken of as if they are a subset of women, as if they are really just like men in dresses, as if that's a fair analogy. How can they not see the problem with that? And note the word irrationally used here. Of course, racism isn't rational. Of course, it would be irrational to feel uncomfortable sharing a changing room with women just on the grounds that they're of a different heritage or culture. But men like these are seriously suggesting that just because an adult human male identifies as a woman, it is irrational for women to feel uncomfortable stripping off in front of them, even though the vast majority of trans-identifying men are heterosexual and do keep their penises. Here's Gabion again, in response to Helen Staniland, who is awesome, by the way. Try to follow her on Twitter if you're on there. I'm actually saying that you are demonizing trans women with a penis by refusing to undress in an enclosed space with them. I'm not going to go into the whole issue of why some sex segregated spaces matter to us in this video, because I don't want to divert from the reason I decided to make it, which is to call out the crude othering of Black women, the analogizing of Black people with trans people, and comparing the civil rights movement with the campaign for gender self-identity. Magdalene Burns put it better than I could.
People are just appropriating the struggle of African American people, trivializing it. Several hundred years of slavery and oppression is somehow comparable to misgendering someone. Are you fucking joking me? I have no idea why African Americans aren't raging about this. I'm insulted. I'm not even Black and I'm not even American.
I'll link to that video below. Now, I'm not denying that trans people can be victims of horrific violence for being gender non-conforming. Of course they can, as can gay men, as can lesbians. Violent, hateful thugs will use difference as an excuse. And of course, there are men who will beat up, rape, and kill women just because they're women. Don't even have to be gender non-conforming. But in case you've missed it, the main point of this video, and I know at least one person missed the main point of my first video, what I'm saying here is stop othering Black women, stop analogizing prejudice and discrimination against trans people with the oppression of Black people. It's racist, it's deeply offensive, and it's a really awful argument. I'll leave you with a few responses from Black women to the kind of comments I've shown in this video, and I'll make another one soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.